What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Something Amazing. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the G.Skill Trident Z Neo kit. This is a 16 by 2 kit, therefore 32 gigs at 3600 megahertz, and ask a few questions. Is it worth paying the little bit extra compared to some other kits out there by doing a comparison? And is there a performance benefit, especially if you're planning on using this kit on some of the older AMD CPUs, as these kits, the Neo version, is advertised as being optimized for AMD systems. So jumping straight into it, firstly, let's look at what these RAM kits sell for at the moment. So this is at PC Link Shop today. On their website, the G.Skill Trident Z 3600 megahertz 32 gig kit, which is 2 by 16. This is incorrect. It's not a CL18. It's actually a CL16 at 1.35 volts, and it's selling for around 4,079 Rand at the moment. We're going to be comparing this kit to, so full disclaimer, this is a 2 memory stick kit on a dual channel motherboard, and we're going to be comparing it to the Kingston HyperX Predator RGB RAM, which is a 32 gig kit as well, but this has 4 memory sticks on a dual channel board. This memory RAM modules we've actually reviewed on the channel before. You haven't checked that out, we will put that link at the end of this video. And it also has the same CL16 at 1.35 volts, but this comes in at about 3,595 Rand, about $500 cheaper. So there is a thing, obviously, of 4 memory sticks versus 2 memory sticks on a dual channel motherboard. And there was actually a video, you should check it out, by Gamers Nexus, where he went into details of using 4 sticks versus 2 sticks and obviously playing around with timings, which is something that's a different video altogether. We're not going to do that today. But they saw a benefit of actually using 4 sticks compared to 2 sticks. So our test system is a Ryzen 2700 CPU on an Asus Prime Pro X470 motherboard. Now, once again, full disclaimer, there were a few issues when we put the Trident Z Neo sticks into the system, and we obviously activated the DOCP profiles, which is basically like your Intel XMP profiles, pushing it up to the speed that it's rated for of 3600 megahertz. So an issue that we came across was when we tried running a game, the system would crash. So on the specs for your X470 Prime Pro motherboard, it's advertised on the website, on the ASUS website, as saying up to 3600 megahertz, but the supported memory, it can only read up to maximum of 3466 megahertz. Additionally, on the G.Skill website for this RAM kit, it's not supported or listed any AMD X470 motherboards. Now, I don't know if it's an issue with the motherboard, that's why we couldn't run it at 3600 megahertz, or it could be an issue with the memory controller. Obviously, the Ryzen 2700 is one of the older CPUs, so it could be a conflict with the memory controller on the CPU, because that's where you get your memory control from and performance from. So that's something to think about if you are running an older system and you want to upgrade to this RAM kit. Please be aware that you may have issues and you may not be able to run it at the maximum speed of 3600 megahertz. So for our testing, or before the testing, let's just first look at some of the specifications. So here we obviously ran Typhoon to see exactly what we are using. The new RAM kit is the G.Skill Trident Z Neo, and it has timings of 16, 19, 19, and 39, with a minimum timing delays of 15, 15, 15, 36, and 50. Now that's important because the memory kit that we're comparing it to is the HyperX Predator RAM, and that has tighter timings at 16, 18, 18, and 36, but the minimum timing delays a little bit worse at 17, 17, 17, 39, and 55. Both of them are using Hynix chips. So there's only 3 manufacturers that you can get on chips. You get Hynix, Micron, and you get Samsung B-Die. So there is a version of the G.Skill Trident Z Neo where you get the Samsung B-Die chips, but that comes in significantly more expensive. And traditionally the Samsung B-Die chips memory modules are more expensive, Hynix being more on the budget-friendly side. So they're both using the same memory chips, etc. And it's just the differences is the timings, the minimum timing delays, and the read latencies. We're not gonna adjust or clock or tie and modify them. We are just using the memory sticks out of the box for our testing. So the first thing we obviously fired up was a Cinebench R15. So Cinebench is your traditional CPU benchmark, and interestingly enough, even though we ran the Predator X on the 4-stick dual channel approach versus the Trident Z, which is running on a 2-stick dual channel, we saw a score of 1,514 on R15 on the Predator system, and we saw a score of 1,524 on the Trident Z memory modules. Now, to make things balance, the system, we obviously lowered the clock speeds or the memory speeds of the Trident Z memory modules. So we dropped it down to 3200 megahertz as well. And both systems, we kept or we ran the same clock speeds on the CPU at 3.4 gigahertz. And then obviously the graphics card is the one that we've been using for a while now, which is the Strix 5700 XT. So if you've been following the channel for a while, we've done a lot of videos on that graphics card. So this gave us, just by going to the Trident Z Neo kit, we saw a 10% improvement on Cinebench R15. So then we went to the next CPU benchmark, which is the more later version or the more recent version of Cinebench R20. On the HyperX system, we ran a score of 3,396, and on the Trident Z Neo, we got a score of 3,436, which also gave us a 10% improvement. It wasn't exactly 10%, it was 9.98 and 9.99, so we just rounded it off. But basically, on your Cinebench benchmarks, just by changing the memory modules and running, obviously, the Trident Z Neo at the same speed as the HyperX Predator RAM, we saw a 10% improvement. So obviously there is a benefit of using the little bit more expensive Trident Z Neos, a performance benefit. And then we thought, how would it actually perform in games? So we decided to run one of the game benchmarks, which is TimeSpy. And in TimeSpy, we saw a score improvement of from 9,125 to 9,217, and the CPU score improved from 7,715 to 7,781. And once again, there was a 10% improvement. So overall, there was a 10% improvement in CPU processing power and a 10% improvement in games. And that was noticeable as well in the average FPS when we played PUBG and Call of Duty Warzone and Black Ops, which are the main titles that I jam day to day. I like punishing myself. That's why I play Call of Duty. But that's a topic for another day. Interestingly enough, I decided then to just see if we ran the maximum clock speed on the Trident Z Neo that is supported for the ASUS Prime Pro X470 motherboard, what kind of results would we actually get? And at this memory speeds of 3,466. We first fired up Cinebench R15, and surprisingly, we got a lower score of 1,479. And it was the same when we also did Cinebench R20 with a score of 3,322, and then running Time Spy finally and getting an overall score of 9,186 and a CPU score of 7,505. So overall, the scores were lower than running the memory kit at 3,200 megahertz. So obviously, that being an older system, there may be an issue with support or conflict from the motherboard side with the CPU, which is a 2700. The memory controllers sit on the CPU, so there could be an issue there with the higher speeds causing clashes and therefore a performance drop. Like we saw when we put it up to 3600 megahertz, we would load into Windows, etc. But as soon as we ran any benchmark or went into any game, it would crash almost immediately. So what's the take-home message here? If you're upgrading to a Trident Z Neo kit, there is a clear performance benefit when we compared it to the same kit at the same speed of another brand, utilizing the same memory chips. Is the 10% performance gain worth it for the 500 Rand difference price tag? That's something I guess I'd have to leave up to you. Especially if you're planning on running a kit like this on an older system, like the Ryzen 2700, which may have issues, I think, with the memory controllers on the CPU not supporting those speeds, or it could have been an issue with the motherboard itself, which is an Asus Prime Pro X470. But even running it at the maximum supported speed of 3466 megahertz, there was a performance decrease rather than running it at 3200 megahertz. There was an improvement, obviously running both systems were running dual channel 4-stick memory sticks on the Predator X versus 2 memory sticks on the Trident Z Neo. The timings on them are obviously different out of the box, and I'm sure most people or other people would want to actually try and adjust the timings on the memory to get a performance gain, but that's, like I said, a video for another day. But if you're planning on upgrading, so we recently upgraded to the Strix X570 motherboard and the 5900X AMD CPU, there is a clear benefit. And that video is going to be coming next week, where we're doing a review of the motherboard and the CPU, and we'll be sharing some of the amazing benchmark results that we were able to get with this memory kit on that system. So it's something really to consider. G.Skill has been one of the tried and tested brands out there, but most memory modules these days come with lifetime warranties anyway. So if you do have an issue at some point, you can always get a replacement module if something happens to one of them. And usually memory modules, you don't have issues with them. I guess the decision would be yours at the end of the day, which kit you would rather go for, depending on the type of system you are using or building. But I'd like to hear what you'll think. Comment in the comment section down below. Tell me, is it something you may consider getting? Would you pay the extra $500 for the G.Skill brand versus the HyperX Predator brand? Which other memory module sticks are you using out there and you're not having issues with, especially from a budget standpoint? I'd like to hear from you and like to hear what you guys think, so please comment down below. Like I said, I'll link the HyperX Predator RAM video at the end of this video, and if you'd like to see the full potential of these RAM modules in our new system, which will be coming next week, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and you hit the notifications bell to be notified when that episode drops. As always, please remember to follow us at all our socials on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We usually do postings there of new tech that we may be reviewing in the future, and you'll be able to check what may be coming up on the channel down the line. And as always, please stay safe out there, be blessed, and we'll catch you in the next one.